Hi, fourth graders. We're going to finish our chapter from yesterday that we started. And I want you to think about and answer the question in today's to-do list. The question is, do you think Kensuke would ever leave the island? So if the opportunity came up, what do you think Kensuke would actually do? We kind of got an idea of that yesterday, and I want you to think about as we're listening and answer the question in the seesaw assignment. Is his mind changing at all, or is he going to stay? What do you think? And that's if the opportunity comes. All right. So, day after day, we piled more and more wood on the beacon. It was massive now, bigger even than the one I had built on Watch Hill. Every morning now, before we went down to the pool to wash, Kensuke would send me up to the top of the hill with his binoculars. I always scanned the horizon, both in hope and in trepidation. That just means he was kind of scared. I longed to see the ship, of course I did. I longed to go home, but at the same time, I dreaded what that would mean. I felt so much at home with Kensuke. The thought of leaving him filled me with a terrible sadness. I determined to do all I could to persuade him to come with me, if and when a ship came. At every opportunity now, I talked to him of the outside world, and the more I talked, the more he seemed to become interested. Of course, I never spoke of the wars and the famines and disasters. I painted the best picture of the world outside that I could. There was so much he didn't know. He marveled at all I told him, at the microwave in our kitchen, at computers and what they could do, at the Concorde flying faster than the speed of sound, at the men going to the moon and all the satellites. These things took some explaining, I can tell you. Some of it he didn't even believe, at least not at first. The time came when he began to quiz me. In particular, he would ask me about Japan. But I knew very little about Japan, only that back home in England lots of things, including our microwave, had made in Japan written on them. Cars, calculators, my father's stereo, my mother's hairdryer. I made in Japan person, he laughed. Very old machine, still good, still very strong. Try as I did to trawl my memory, after a while I could find nothing more to tell him about Japan, but he would still keep asking, You sure there's no war in Japan these days? I was fairly certain that there wasn't, and said so. They build up Nagasaki again after bomb? I told him that they had, and hoped I was right. All I could do was reassure him as best I could, and then tell him the same few things I did know about over and over again. He seemed to love to hear it, like a child listening to his favorite story. Once after I finished expounding yet again on an amazing sound quality of my father's Sony stereo that made the whole house vibrate, he said very quietly, Maybe one day before I die, I go back to my home. One day I go back to Japan. Maybe. I wasn't sure he meant it, but it did mean that he was at least considering it, and that gave me some cause for hope. It wasn't until the night of the turtles, though, that I came to believe Kensuke was really serious about it. I was fast asleep when he woke me. You come, Micah-san. Very, very quickly. You come. You come, he said. What for? I asked him. But he was already gone, and I ran out after him into the moonlight and caught him halfway down the track. What are we doing? Where are we going? Is it a boat? Very soon, you see, very soon. Stella stayed at my heels all the way to the beach. She never liked going out in the dark very much. I looked around. There was nothing there. The beach looked completely deserted. The waves lapped listlessly. The moon rode the clouds, and the world fell still about me as if it were holding its breath. I did not see what was happening until Kensuke suddenly fell on his knees in the sand. They're very small. Sometimes they are not strong. Sometimes in the morning birds come eat them. And then I saw it. I thought it was a crab at first. It wasn't. It was a minuscule turtle, tinier than a terrapin, clambering down out of a hole in the sand and then beetling off down to the beach toward the sea. And then another, and further down the beach, dozens of them, hundreds of them. I could see now, maybe thousands, all scuttling across the moonlit sand and into the sea. Elsewhere, the beach was alive with them. Stella was nosing at one, so I warned her off. She yawned and looked innocently up at the moon. I saw that one of them was on its back at the bottom of the hole, legs kicking frantically. Kensuke reached down, picked it up gently, and set it on its feet in the sand. You go to sea, little turtle, he said. You live there now. You soon be big, fine turtle, and then one day you come back and see me, maybe. He sat back on his haunches to watch him scuttle off. You know what they do, Micah? Mother turtles, they lay their eggs in this place. Then, one night time every year, always when moon is high, little turtles are born. Long way to go see. Long way to go to see. Very many turtles die. So I always stay. I help them. I chase birds away. So they not eat baby turtles. Many years from now, when turtles are big, they come back and lay eggs again. This true story, Micah-san. All night long, we kept our vigil over the mass birth as the infant turtles made their run for it. We patrolled together, reaching into every hole we found to see if there were any left, stuck or stranded. We found several too weak to make the journey and carried them down to the sea ourselves. The sea seemed to revive them. Away they went, no swimming lessons needed. We turned dozens right side up and shepherded them down into the sea. And when dawn came, the birds came down to scavenge. We were there to drive them off. Stella chased and barked after them, and we ran at them, shrieking, waving, hurling stones. We were not even entirely successful, but most of the turtles made it down to the sea. But even here, they were still not entirely safe. In spite of all of our desperate efforts, a few were plucked out of the water by the birds and carried off. By noon, it was all over. Kensuke was tired as we stood up ankle deep in the water, watching the very last of them swim away. He put his arm on my shoulder. They very small turtles, Micah-san, but they very brave. They braver than me. They do not know what they find out there, what happened to them, but they go anyway. They very brave. Maybe they teach me a good lesson. I make up my mind. When one day ship come, and we light fire, and they find us, then I go. Like turtles, I go. I go with you. I go home to Japan. Maybe I find Kimi. Maybe I find Micah-ya. I find truth. I go with you, Micah-san. Okay, so you can see it seems like his mind has been changed. Okay. Go ahead and answer that question in Seesaw, and let me know if you have any other questions. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day.